Good morning, good morning. This is Spirit Journey, and today is Saturday, August 4th, 2018, and it's about 11:23 a.m. Yes, I hope you all are having a very good morning. Here in New York City, it is raining outside, I see. Very rainy, and so I don't feel guilty staying at home and just relaxing. And my little doggies are across from me, and some of them do snore. So if you hear snoring, it's my little baby dogs out there. So I apologize in advance. Yes, I want to talk about some topics. I have my notes here. Um, yeah, I want to talk about a few things. Two major things I want to talk about. I I want to talk about the evils of pornography and how I think it had affected my life. Yes, good morning, viewer. Good morning. Yes, I'm just getting started. You haven't missed a thing. Yes, and you could type in and give a hello so I can give you a big hello and by name if you want to. Um, yes, so what I'm going to talk about today is my thoughts about pornography, especially as it pertains to women, and how, yes, good morning, another viewer, good morning. Yes, I'm just getting started. I want to talk about the evils of pornography, how it affected my life, and how I didn't know that pornography might have been a key issue that had me experience the things that I experienced. And yes, please let me know if the volume is okay, if the audio is okay. Just let me know if something is off. You can just let me know. Yes, I want to talk about that. And the second thing, major thing I want to talk about is the Caribbean and the evils that happened there in the Caribbean, especially upon women and children in particular. I put both of them in the same category, children and women. I used to live in the Caribbean briefly, and I saw different things. And I think with the um, pedophilia that's been discussed over YouTube, against certain Hollywood personalities. Yes, good morning, good morning. Who's that? I have to look closely. It's hard to see. Let me see. Yeah, my eyesight is not the best. I want to just be able to see the name. Hey, hi Betty. Yes, it's good to see you. Yeah, I had to make the screen a little bigger. My eyesight is awful, Betty. Good morning, Betty. It's good to see you. Yes, I'm just getting started, really. Yes. Good morning, viewers. So, yeah, I want to, yes, as I was saying, I want to talk about my experiences in the Caribbean. And again, like with the media today, with YouTube, it's a lot of um, discussions about Hollywood and the outing of some of the Hollywood personalities, whether it be actors, actresses, directors, producers, and the like. And I think those um, YouTube videos pertaining to that is what's really motivating me to do this video. And those of you who are familiar with my channel, for the past couple of days, I've been doing videos um, about this subject and how it's affecting me. It's very stressful. And as I've shared many times, that I'm a survivor of child molestations from family members, and I think it's time for women and men who are violated to speak out and to empower yourself. That's what this is all about, this video. And it's to make people aware. It's to help assert me and to let people know what happened to me, what's going on. And so when we're all aware, then maybe we could, you know, as a community of people, to say no, to let the authorities know what's going on. Let you know, your your teachers, you know, somebody. You know, we have to speak out. And so I thank the social media of today, this tool that I could just do a live stream or um, or tweeting. I don't have a tweet account, but you know, all these different medium, or Facebook. There's numerous social media things that people could use today to be heard. And so this is part of my coming out of my shell. And again, I think this topic is something that has sexual, I mean, what do you call it? This spirituality that is being perverted. See, sexual crimes is against spirituality, and this channel name is called Spirit Journey. So I feel that this incident of molestation or sexual crimes is something that should be discussed in elevating my spiritual awareness and spirituality as a whole. And you can't live a life of putting your head in the sand. And I think part of me emotionally had my head in the sand. I knew certain things were wrong being done to me, but I lived in fear, and I always blamed myself for the things that I encountered. So so with that being said, as I mentioned, that the first part of this video will be about the evils of pornography, and then I'm going to talk about the Caribbean and the crimes that are happening there. I remember how I felt growing up, that I lived in a household that was very male dominating, and I was often the only female in my home. And I see how, now, again, my background is the Caribbean, and this could be a cultural aspect of it, not just pornography, but I think there is a cultural aspect of the Caribbean and the attitude that people have towards women, and that's taught to that generation. You know, each generation puts out their attitude, how they feel about women and children, things like that. And so, with me, I wasn't really. Part of the dynamics is that I was the youngest one in my family, and I was the smallest one. And I think with that component, that could add a lot to the things that I incurred. I was name called a lot. I was told that I was ugly, flat-chested, all these horrible things, and I shared that with you. And in hindsight, I'm wondering, what my body look like? Why does it concern you? Why does what I look like concern for you to share with me your negative attitude? And the individual who would tell me things like that, he was a very angry, see, that's a key word, anger. That individual male was a very angry individual, very impulsive, poor in impulse control. And I never understood what was bothering that particular person. And I remember, like, at family affairs, or you were going out or something like that with other people, I noticed how some of the males act like they would say that it was always like a young girl, and that it's like they were very interested in talking to a little girl, or whether it be a family member, or a friend of a family member or something. And it's like all this interest to them. And then the vilification. Like, oh, you're gaining a little weight and blah, blah, blah. Or your teeth are a little crooked. Just little things. And I share this because, see, we're all beautiful. Because we have this, the a soul living in each human. We all are born with that perfect beauty inside, and we're not born noticing about the way we look. You see little kids playing, they're not commenting on what type of clothes they're wearing or their hairstyles, what type of sneakers. That was a big thing in the Black community. What sneakers you have, all these things. Kids play. Kids are just kids. They play, they laugh, things like that. But women in particular, as we get older, our looks comes in the forefront of everything, and especially of a male saying it to, the males of the family would say things to the females, or women in general. And that's what that's what my experience was. It doesn't mean that every family or every individual in the family, but I saw it was like a trend. And I asked myself, why is that? Why is it so many women are so preoccupied about their looks? So women, start thinking back. Start thinking back of when you were growing up. Did you have someone in your family or a relative, or even schoolmates, classmates, or teachers? And they make a point about your looks. Like, oh, that's a pretty little girl, or something. It's focusing on her looks. I never really hear them saying about little boys and about their looks, whatever. But overwhelmingly, females and little girls are taught the importance of looks. And those of you who are watching, think back of when you were a child. Did you have someone in your life, a teacher or a family member or a friend, and they make an issue of your physical appearance, something that you really can't change? What did they say? What type of things? Were you being told that you're only good because of your looks? What if you don't look good one day? So this is what I'm getting at, that women are being groomed early in life, that she is sexualized. Her value is based on her looks. And you go to a department store, the clothes department store, in the children's area. The women's area is maybe 3 times the size of the male counterpart, right? And they have so much paraphernalia geared to the little girl. And it's putting a focus, an unnecessary focus about her looks. And to be able to please and attract a guy, or to have someone say, oh, that they're pretty, things like that. And so when she grows up, she's preoccupied about her looks. She in some communities about weight conscious, and you could be slim, you could be at a healthy weight, and you're calling yourself fat, you know. Um, and if you start to gain a little weight, she's vilified, and it's pointed out, and she's like on display. Even as an adult, I remember someone telling me, oh, turn around, turn around. Like for me to turn around so they could observe my body. I kid you not. And I didn't really even know this person. This was a family member's male friend. And how violated I felt at this individual. And again, I don't really know who I knew of him. I might have seen him once in the past, over maybe 30 years ago, but that's very forward. See, that's what I'm getting at, that the males are taught that the culture is teaching that it's okay to do that, to objectify you and to put you on display. You're on display for their pleasure. And I think of some family members that I was raised with, that his preoccupation with looks, like this person, and then well, let me go on. This person had driven me to school once, and I had my acquaintance, my dorm mates around. And they were really nice people, and the individual, this guy says, this family member says, "Oh, she's ugly," and I'm offended. It's like, again, you have to fit their mold, and you're for their entertainment. And when I think about it, I'm angry, because one, that was a friend of mine. And this person doesn't know you. You're not going to see the person again. You're just dropping me to school. The person was pleasant. I mean, the person that he was criticizing was a nice person. They dressed clean. They were polite. There was no need to go there. And he's much older than this person. So what do you care about this woman's look? See, again, that individual was my abuser, the person who molested me, and I had gotten him arrested. And it's unfortunate that he didn't get arrested earlier, because he'll probably still be in prison. But either way, see, the person who molested me was addicted to pornography, okay? And that individual had one day, now the incident that happened to me growing up with him, I had repressed it. It was a series of things that he had done to me, and I had explained it, I think, in other videos, but he had done certain things to me growing up, and then he stopped. But it still left a nasty scar. And that individual had also said to me that he was going to rape me. Hear that? Rape me. And he threw me on the ground and was humping on me and acting violent. And I was just a little girl. I might have been 8 years old at the time. And this person is about 6'4", maybe 220 pounds, 230. So he's a big guy. I might have weighed maybe 40-something pounds. So there's no comparison. So as an adult now, what would cause he was a teenager at the time, what would cause a teenager to say that he's going to rape his baby sister just out of the blue, and his objectifying other women and their looks, and just in comment, so you could just be walking, oh, that's an ugly person, or that's a, he's just lust. He was involved with pornography, and he tried to sexualize me one day with pornography. And to this day, my mind has shut it down. I don't even remember the details of it. He had it, I think what he was trying to do was to seduce me to have sex with him. But thank God that nothing happened, and he just drove me home. He had brought me over to his home, and his wife wasn't there. And I think he set it up that way. In hindsight, I was a teenager at the time. I was 17. And 17, or I could have just turned 18, but I was a teenager. And he had done that. And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get my thoughts here. Yeah, I feel that he was trying to set me up, and that because I did not do do anything or take off my clothes, I think that's what he was trying to do, trying to have me do. I was in shock. I was scared. I was sexualized by it. I felt it was a violation, a lack of trust. So I share this because, see, I see that pornography and violent pornography has a big influence on people's behaviors. See, these pornography is designed to deprecate women. It's designed to make her feel not worthy unless she pleases the guy sexually or looks nice enough for his acceptance. So again, it's objectifying you and making you feel that your value again is based on this activity. And it's shallow based. It's very shallow. I feel that, I'm sorry, see, if I'm sure that the other people in this family that I was raised in were probably exposed to the same thing. And it also indicates to me why some of them may have, treated me and other women in objectifying ways because of this pornography. Because a lot of this pornography is violent based. It's nothing loving about this type of material. It's dirty, it's anger based, and it's exploitive in nature. And so if a man watches this, and I know that you have women that watch pornography, but overall it's really geared for men, and maybe a lot of women might watch it for their guy, something like that. But overall, in my opinion, it's geared for men's enjoyment, and it's a power play against the woman, at least what was showed to me. And how open, I was shocked at how open he was to just throw that in my face. Why did he do it? Why would he think I would want to see that? And then it happened again with somebody else. And it happened in the house I was raised in, that someone just one day just popped in a pornographic tape. But in my opinion, was violent in nature. And I was shocked. I went, why are you putting something like that in a family home in front of me? I'm not about that. And so I'm sharing this. I'm sharing this because it's teaching that there was an acceptance of this type of behavior, this type of attitude. It's teaching an attitude against women and how to view women and how to treat women. And so I no longer am surprised why I had very low self-esteem. So I'm gathering that this was being done, that type of material was being showed in my house, in the household I was in. And I may not have been in the room, but it was like, boom. I'm embarrassed about it, but I feel it necessary because I feel my coming out will help other people to come out with their stories and to share it on social media of your choice, to inform others, to empower you, to explain to people, hey, this is what happened to me. I understand now why I was objectified, why I was molested. That type of stuff, pornography, I feel that it's demonic in nature, and I think it puts spirits, how you say it, like spirits are, negative spirits or negative energies are attached to these things, and they might put ideas or sublimination, subliminal information, I'm trying to say, and that it could be saying, hey, you're to rape women, or hey, you're to grope women, or you could, all this type of stuff. So that's also why I'm doing this video, because what you bring into your home has intention attached to it, and the intention of pornography is to victimize the women usually, or children. And so you have Hollywood, and now with all this outing of these Hollywood personalities, I'm sure they're involved with pornography, and there's evil attached to it, and it's a rape culture. Pornography is a rape-based culture mentality, and so no wonder why that perverted family member of mine who molested me, who I had arrested, did though. I think what attributed to a lot of his behavior and why he said that he was going to rape me. It's staggering, and all the other things, and how it brainwashes people. It just has to stop. If you have that type of material in your house, throw it out, burn it, put it in a bin, get the fire department, have them burn it. It's to destroy it. It puts bondage on people, and so these people who hurt me growing up, I think they're in a bondage. Pornography makes you go into a sexual bondage. And I found out a lot about the person who molested me, that they were on a sex, that they were doing things, they couldn't stop with certain activity. They were always with other women, and doing, being unfaithful. So why? The person, see, some women might think, well, my husband might have cheated on me because I'm not pretty enough. See, that's the lie that a lot of these women are told, that they weren't pretty enough. And that's not the case. That is not the case. You look at a lot of those Hollywood wives, they're beautiful, but many of their spouses are just two-timers. It's not about looks. These indiscretions is not because of the not being attractive. See, that's the lie that's being taught to women, that they're not pretty enough. It has nothing to do with looks. It has to do with the perversion on that man's mind, and the things that he exposed himself to, most likely as a young child or an early teen. And these, again, these videos, this pornographic material has messages in it. It brainwashes, and it has negative energies attached to it, and those who watch it get attached by those negative energies, and they can become possessed by this sexual addiction, and then they can't stop even if they want to. So just avoid it, and realize, women, it has nothing to do with looks. It has nothing. The guy is sick. So it creates, I think, sexual predators. And so if they don't have access to a woman in their home, well, they go outside. Oh, they may even go to church and befriend the little children. And that's what I'm afraid what's going to happen. You know, that they might go, you know, I found out that this person had gone to a church and befriended a little girl in the church. It shocked me. This person would just say, hey, but you know, I saw so-and-so in church, and oh, this little girl missed him, and blah, blah, blah. I said, he was in church? Yeah. Sexual predators go where they're not expected to, you know, they go where they can have access. They want free access to young, gullible people, you know, and so a lot of churches got kids, and people use their looks. See, this also is about the age of awareness, and that a pedophile does not have to be so-called unattractive. A pedophile could be anyone, a male or a female, but we know of mostly males, but they can look normal. The person that perpetrated me was just a regular guy. You wouldn't expect it. They can have high IQs. They can dress well. They can speak well, but they are perverts. They have some have a secret life. They have their cover wife, but they got other things on the side. You bet. They have other things on the side. So it has nothing to do with, well, the wife didn't please them enough, and that has nothing to do with that. Those people have a sickness, a perversion, and an addiction. And they'll scout. They could be school teachers. They could be in any occupation, but they're around where they have access to people who will be gullible. So those are kids, young kids. So I think it's important to mention this, because see, a lot of these women, especially in the black community, because there's not a lot of eligible black men, and so the women may feel like, if I'll do anything to get him. Ladies, be careful what you wish for. Be careful. It's, you gotta value yourself. See, that's where that spiraling downward, because see, we've been trained and brainwashed to think our value is based on our looks, and that if you don't get a man, that you're what do you call it, with a has-been, or what's the word? You have no value. Your value is not based on your looks or your age. Your value is based on what's inside of you. And that's the point of this video, to let you know, ladies, that your value is not based on others. You are a human soul, and our souls are pure. We are born pure. But we only get corrupted through the lies. This age is the age of lying and deception. And that we're all born innocent, but we become corrupted. And so now as an adult, a lot of women, they put themselves out there in a way that disempowers them. Ladies, get your own jobs so that you can support yourself. And be selective who you bring in your home. Watch them. Watch how they treat, for example, when you go to a restaurant, let's say a guy asks you out, look at him in the, don't be obvious, but just be aware. Be aware of how they talk to the waitress. How does he look at her? Does he notice how he looks at her? Does he look at her lusty? Do you see him staring at her behind? Things like that, but in a lustful way. Watch. Things like that. That's a clue on what they're about. So, if you have children out there, you're not going to want that guy to be around your daughter. Just a moment, Lynn. I have my little dog. Come here. Come. Oops. I'm sorry. Yeah, my little peanut. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, be selective and be aware how he treats other people. Is he looking like, let's say you're walking down the street, do you see him staring at other ladies? This is a good indication how he's going to be when you're really serious with him. He's going to continue that behavior when you get engaged or even when you're married. People don't change because they get married. And don't think because you know how to do certain sexual things to please them that a pervert could never really be pleased. It's an addiction. And the more he gets, the more he wants. So be aware of who you date, how they act, and be cautious about them with your children. And again, it has nothing to do. I used to think that that perverts, that maybe they didn't go to school. They could have they could be doctors, lawyers, government officials. A pervert is a pervert. It has nothing to do with education. Not at all. And then you bring them in your home. And then he's going in your child's room. Don't do it, ladies. Don't put yourself and your children through that. And then you get angry. And then some of you want to throw out your daughters. It's, oh, well, she was flirting or whatever. Don't, wait till your daughters or your children come of age and leave the home and bring in who you want in that house. Don't even do it. Your children are more important than some fly-by-night fellow. Don't have some self-esteem. That's all I'm trying to preach here. Have self-esteem, ladies, about yourself and your value. Your value is essential. The woman makes the community the way it is, really. She brings in the nurturing and all these other things, You're valuable. You're so valuable. You can take care of a home and have a job also and a family. You can juggle so much. You're so valuable. Just realize that. You don't need, it's okay to want, if you want to marry if you find the right one. But don't feel that your life is zero because you're not married. You see all these people in Hollywood, and you see these women are angry when they find out that what their husbands are into. They're devastated, some of them, and then they get a divorce. So I'm just saying, just be aware, and to really love love yourself, so you don't fall into that trap. So next I want to talk about, oh, there was something else. Okay, so what are the other consequences of women who are raised in this rape culture where these pornography is being shown in your home or things like that? It makes women hate other women. Yeah, that was another thing I wanted to say. You notice a lot of women hate other women because, see, you're competing for that pervert, whether he's just a womanizer or a pedophile. They know that you feel like you need him to feel of value. See, that was the program. The program was, you need me to be called somebody special. And they might withhold affection and show affection to another person, another woman, or in front of you, and then you feel inadequate, and you might want to fight the other woman. And they do. Some men do that deliberately. And so women oftentimes victimize other women, what they call cattiness. And I think that's where a lot of cattiness come from, this competition for these guys. Women, we're too good for that type of behavior. And when you realize that's what's going on, that the root of why you're don't want to have any women friends, whatever, because of this competition. Just know for what it is, and have a sense of sisterhood. I think also this women hating women, it also, in my experiences, overflows into the medical field. That's right. I've gone to doctors. Even when I was a young girl, a young teen, I had to get a GYN exam, and it was my first GYN exam, and I had a female doctor, and the doctor had used I mentioned this before. She had first talked to my mom at the time, and my mother said, look, I had gone in because I had bad menstrual cramps. And she says, look, she suffers from this, and, I don't want to waste my time if you're not going to be able to help. Sometimes she was just a little irritated, she didn't know what she could do, and as a last resort, she brought me to this doctor. So the doctor says, well, maybe she should go out there and have sex, blah, blah, and real nasty, arguing with my mother. If I would have known, I was maybe 13 years old at the time, 12 or 13. I was devastated with that. And then this same woman had to examine me, and she had used this speculum on me. And a speculum is that device that they insert in the vagina, and it opens, and they can take a sample, a pap smear. So she leaves the speculum in me and walks away from the table, and the speculum falls out of me and onto the floor. And this same woman is calling me stupid. Well, I didn't do anything. And again, this is my very, very first GYN exam. And for her to say that. See, women are becoming insensitive to even young girls. And another doctor, it was another GYN, and this hatred. See, I don't know, that particular GYN doctor was not a it was a Filipino. I'm not Filipino, and I'm wondering whether it was a, you know, a racial issue, and the Eastern European woman that GYN doctor that I had to see. It was that doctor from Eastern Europe, very verbally hostile, um, and it was a hatred. Her response was so hateful, and she had said something like I told her that I'm not sexually active, and some other stuff I said, and her response was, "Well, you're not a real woman, and you only became a real woman when they put a speculum in you." But she was like yelling at me, and I said, "My goodness!" I said to myself, "What an evil woman." Again, is it cultural? I don't know. And I don't know why someone who um, knows my history of being molested, and to say that to someone, I think it's insensitive. And if I would have known more better to report those ladies. But see, I mentioned those because, see, if a woman doesn't like herself, even a GYN doctor, she's not going to respect her patients. And so that's why I'm mentioning this, that event. Women, even doctors, are not respecting other female patients, and they are mistreating them. And I'm not a hostile person, I'm very laid back, but I think some doctors, some female doctors, could be jealous of even female patients, and you shouldn't be. We need to come together as a whole, as a unit. We need to, because see, we're the nurturers of life. But if we can't nurture ourselves of mutual respect, that's part of the reason why I think society is falling even more rapidly. So it's bad enough of what some of the men are doing to us, but what women are doing to ourselves. And so I share this so that it's to awaken us, to let us know, hey, we have to stop this behavior. We have to become rational thinkers and start respecting ourselves and respecting other women. It starts with you. It always starts with the individual, about the self-respect and the respect of others. So next thing I want to talk about, like the last thing I want to talk about is the Caribbean. I used to live in the Caribbean. I'm born and raised in New York City, but my background, my heritage is from the Caribbean. And briefly, when I was an adult, I had moved to the Caribbean, and I witnessed certain things there. Um, it it really woke me up about how, like, see, we all, I guess, being, living in the United States, the mainland, you see the Caribbean as a place for vacation and fun, things like that. But you have people that live there. And the people aren't just a backdrop. The people there have lives, and things are happening. And you have many people from the Caribbean that also move to the U.S. mainland, and they bring their cultural lifestyles also to the U.S. But I noticed when I was there in the Caribbean that I saw how it had a lot of violent undertones, especially against women. And I had mentioned this in a video in the past. I remember it was a coworker. I didn't know this coworker well, but this his co-worker, um, I think her child was the guy. She was murdered, and I think the child that she had it could have been his kid. I'm not sure, but either way, she had a young kid. The kid could have been 2 years old at the time of her murder. It was domestic violence going on. She put up a, what do you call, a protection, order of protection, and she, it went through. The guy left the home. He was going to go to another island, leave the island. And then for whatever reason, when he was at the airport, he decides not to go on the flight, and he comes back to his so-called girlfriend's house, takes a hammer, and clubs her to death with the hammer when she was in bed, and the child was in the bed also, and witnessed everything. Okay, and that happened on I think on a Sunday. That Monday morning, when I was going to work, the person who I was living with had the newspaper. Said, "Hey, I know this and I know the person too." That was a co-worker of mine. And when I got to my job, that was the discussion, and everybody was talking about, "Oh my God, so and so's murdered." And I had seen her that past Wednesday, and she was murdered on that following Sunday. So it was so sad. She was a nice person, quiet spoken, and this happens. It's a lot of violence against women. A lot of violence against women in the Caribbean. And again, the Caribbean has its slavery that's attached to it. So I'm wondering if that was a component to it, being tortured and dehumanizing people. But it's so severe. It's a very low, the women that work so hard, that's what's really interesting. The women of the Caribbean, in my opinion, are very hardworking. They all have to work. They have their jobs, and they come home and they take care of the home. So that's like two jobs, the home and the job. And somehow they're able to juggle it all. And they have their children. Many of them have children, and many of them are not married. And so that's another problem. They have children, but they are not married to the guys, and many of the guys are with many women. So again, there's no camaraderie of women to women, really. And because you're perceived as being a potential threat to the guy they have. But again, as I mentioned, as with the U.S. mainland, don't sell yourself short of these guys. The women of the Caribbean, you're very valuable and very intelligent and very functioning individual. You don't need you don't need that. You don't need them to be happy. You juggle your home. You have your own money. You work very hard, and you don't need that. That's not what makes you valuable, But I saw that. I heard about that lady in question that was murdered by her boyfriend, and there was something else I wanted to discuss. I saw mothers who were mistreating their children, and I think the mistreatment that they were giving to their children, again, is the frustration because of the man that they want. And they did it right in front of me. I was amazed because I never heard in the mainland someone say something negative about their children like the way they did. There's this one new mother. Her child was about 5, 6 years old. a really nice, sweet kid. Nice. He was a little boy. And the mother, he had to get his school pictures taken. And I thought his picture looked adorable. And the mother said, "Oh, you look so stupid. And why you smile like that?" Blah, 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 and yelling at the kid. And this was a nice, well-behaved little boy, a sweet guy, really sweet. And then I was with another woman um, who I worked with, and she had children from different fathers. And the daughter, she had two daughters, and it was the older daughter that was from a prior relationship, and her current relationship was the girl of the younger. And now her older daughter was a beautiful little girl. She could have been, oh, maybe 7, 8 years old. And the little girl was maybe 3 or 5. And the mother, right in front of me, says, "You're ugly." And the girl didn't say there was no provocation. And the mother just started insulting the daughter. Said, "I think you're ugly," and this and that. And I was shocked because I didn't know this person was like that. The person at work is very jovial and funny and everything. A nice person to work with, but not to our own. And I think, again, this hostility might have been due to her current relationship, and again, her then boyfriend that she's living with, and the daughter, the father of her youngest girl. He had multiple partners, and the friend was telling me that he had 7 women on the side. So I guess sharing different women and him coming in and out of the house, she was upset. I mean, I'm just speculating why. But either way, she took it out on her daughter. And so I see, like in the Caribbean, it's a lot of there's no warmth. That everybody's competing with everybody. So if your own mother is calling you ugly and things like that, so you're not going to really respect other women. You're in competition because now you have a young sibling, and but they love the younger, the mother loves the younger sibling over the older, and again, they're from 2 different fathers. So it's like, wow. So it's causing division, and it has to stop. I also want to discuss, like, there's a lot of incest that happens in the Caribbean. Again, maybe incest is also due to the legacies of slavery that happened in the Caribbean, but it happens all over. And I mean, it happens all over, all different cultures of the Caribbean. It's not just one island. I think it's prevalent. I learned of this through one of the victims. She was from a different island than where I was living at the time, and she was telling me that when she was a little girl, her brother attempted to rape her. She was screaming, and her screams got heard, and the father hears the little girl screaming and comes in and sees what's going on. And I think he threw him out of the house. But that same guy had gotten married, and he had married his own cousin, and then he had a child through that woman that he was married to, and he rapes his own daughter. He was from, I'm not going to say what island, because it's not about trying to shame anybody's island, whatever. They basically all that are the same. I mean, they both, all the islands have certain things that they have in common, but this happened. Some islands you have a lot of cousin marriages because of the history of slavery, and to keep money in certain families, or to let's say if it was there's a lot of colorisms in the Caribbean, and so if you keep to your own, if you have a certain coloring, whatever, and you want to keep that color within that family, you marry within your own, and in this case it was their own relatives. It was, some islands have a lot of first cousin marriages, and the island where this girl was from was on an island where that happened a lot in history. I don't know whether it's happening now, cousin marriages there, first cousin marriages, but that's her background. And this guy raped his own daughter. So you have this violence being done. There was a mother who sees her kid. There were two children playing outside, and some game they had they must have seen something on television about a rope around the neck, and to jump off to play hangman. Well, he actually hung himself, and he's maybe 1 inch off the ground, and the mother sees it and does not come to the aid of their child. And this was hit news in the island I was living on at the time. And it's just, countless stories. Other mothers that I work with, that this contempt against their daughters, and it's like, women, you gotta stop it. Your daughters are not your enemy. They're a byproduct from your own body. And that you're to love your daughters. When you don't love your daughters, you're really setting up a culture of hostility and hatred and backstabbing. Women have to come together. And it has to stop in the Caribbean. We all recently heard about one of the islands that the Clintons were involved in, that they're sex trafficking. And when I lived in the Caribbean, I've never been to that island that the Clintons are involved in, allegedly involved in, with the human trafficking. But the island I lived on, this police officer was telling me that there is a prostitution ring, and they get them from this other island, but they burn out really quickly, he was saying, and then they have to ship them back. And so the islands, that police officer was at least honest about it, but it's rampant. It's just, the Caribbean is just becoming a cesspool for people from the mainland or Europe to get their kicks off. It's awful. We're better than that. The Caribbean is better than that. You don't want a reputation to go, let's go there because you can get an underage girl. Yeah, you have to stop that. The island is physically a beautiful place, but it has a lot of ugly energy there of abuse against women primarily, and children. You have to stop it. The days of the pirate is over, but now you're pirating yourself with abuse. It's shameful, and it's sad. It's sad, and no one is speaking out. No one is speaking. No, let me stop that. It's slowly coming out, but the Caribbean is being used for a lot of evil activity, a lot. And I'm glad I left. I visited other islands in the Caribbean, and a lot of the people, like, I don't know whether it's because I'm from the mainland, and then because I visited there, maybe their concept of someone from the mainland, even though they knew that my background was from the Caribbean, because I told them. But they like sometimes they look at you, like they flirt. And flirt, I mean, the men and the women. And it's like they won't stop. And it's like a program. Like, okay, I'm just gonna, and I don't know whether they're even aware of what they're doing. You know, and again, I'm not going to mention which island that they do that a lot in. And some of the men too. It's like a non-stop. It's like sex on their brain. And I'm not, you know, I'm not wearing something provocative, whatever. And they could be young or old. Young or old. And it's like, wow, what, you know, to go through so much, you know, the history of the Caribbean is so tragic. And now you just see it as a vacation spot, but the harm that its history gave you. I'm really sad, and I really want, see, I want us to be honest with ourselves. And I'm doing this segment of this video because I want to encourage other people of the Caribbean, like with this one new YouTuber, at least his videos are being forwarded onto YouTube. The person who is exposing a lot of the Hollywood pedophilia, and he's starting a campaign, or at least it seems like he's starting a campaign of people to share their experiences. So I'm encouraging people to share their experiences with the people from the Caribbean, regardless what island you're from, or the West Indies, the Antilles, that region of the world. Start exposing the wickedness that's happening there to the children and to the women that are living there, so that it will stop, so that it won't be, because you know, like that guy, we'll call that Lolita Express, that guy, he has his own island in the Caribbean, and he has all this allegedly all this underage sex that's happening there. I'm sure if it's happening there, it's happening in other islands in the Caribbean. And again, the Caribbean it's a lot of poverty there. And so I think some of the people, and parents even, are prostituting their children. That's another thing I want to talk about. A lot of the people there are prostituting their own children. And this has to stop. This has to stop. Money, I mean, we all need to eat, but this is even happening on islands that is under the U.S. flag. And so there's federal dollars and there's welfare, you know, so you can have food to eat, but it's being done there. This, almost forgot, this, what they're also doing in the Caribbean, they're taking some of the siblings, if they have a sister, if a brother has a sister, they have her to take off her clothes and use it for money to show some guy, and so they get money off of it. And it's the guy, and it was a person that shared me that when she was growing up, her older brothers did that to her so they can get money. And it's disgusting. She was a Caucasian girl, and I guess the so-called novelty of a island that's predominantly black, and the brothers knew that they wanted to, you know, see a white girl's body. So that's what they did. See that? So it's not just black people. You have white West Indians and black West Indians. People who are there for, you know, you have whites who are there for generations. I'm not talking about the whites that just maybe moved there 40 years ago. I'm talking about whites who are there, who've lived there for hundreds of years, you know, their lineage. And so the economy is so bad that they are trafficking their own siblings their sisters to do this wickedness. I was shocked when she told me that. Yeah. And then I met another person. I knew of the girl from church. I visited many churches there. And this one particular church I went to in the Caribbean, the girl could have been maybe 12 or something like that. She was a young girl, 12, 13. Very, very beautiful young lady. And she had a stepmother. And the girl was, at this point of her life, she looked very happy. She looked healthy and vibrant. And there was a separation. And she was very devastated because she loved the girl as her own. But the father started withholding food from the little girl and to use her in some sexual thing. I think to prostitute her to the guys there. How I learned about that. I wish I could remember more details about it, but it was another woman from church, and she, I had driven her home, and I had to drive her to this place, and the little girl was living in this other place where the woman told me to drive her to. And the woman, her preoccupation was that she didn't like that the little girl was often on the phone. Children go, I mean, young girls are on the phone, but she didn't seem preoccupied, concerned about the girl's weight. And something, I know, it was something that was said, and then I realized what was going on, what it could have been. And I said, oh my God. And so it all fits in, the things that are going on there. People, I guess, people who are descendants of slaves, and you don't care about enslaving your children. It's pathetic. We have to start waking up. We have to start waking up of the things that are happening in our lives. You start wondering, why is it such darkness over the Caribbean? Despite its physical beauty, it has a lot of spiritual darkness there. And even though it has tons of churches there, but there's no spirituality. And people are just abusing each other. They're abusing their children. It has to stop. The Caribbean is potentially such a wonderful, wonderful place, beyond just vacationing there, but for people who actually live there, to be safe and to educate your children, to have schools that prepare them for a better life, an educated life, so that they could prosper in the society that they live in the Caribbean. You know, and again, I did work in the Caribbean, and even there, I was, it's like the men think that they can just come on to you. Sometimes oh, I forget the terminology, but a colleague or someone who has to visit the company from another company, and then they see a woman there, and they make a move on them. And they had asked me to accompany them on a flight to another island. And I was, I'm listening, and I said to myself, this is sound like this guy's trying to pick me up, put me in a sexual situation. And then he outright, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, and then he just outright said, look, you're going to be spending the night with me in my bedroom. I said, no, then. I said, look, I'm a Christian, I'm not all about that. Then he said, oh, well, I'm a Catholic. I said, well, no, I, it's like they just see you as their appetite, their dessert. And so, no wonder why no one's getting along. Um, the people aren't working together as a community as they could. And so it's a lot of poverty there. And you really can't base your economy just solely on tourism, because the tourists are going to be fed up. After a while, they're going to be fed up. And the island that I lived on, they were getting fed up because they started to even mistreat the tourists. This one tourist, it was publicized in the media there, um, she had rented a car. Many people, when they go on vacation, they rent a car. And a taxi driver had walked over to a tourist and punched her because she didn't go into his taxi cab. I kid you not. That's what was told over the news when I lived down there, the local news. They're getting aggressive. You can't just be and act like an animal and think that people are gonna love you. You know, people you can't do that. See, again, it's their attitude towards women. And before I had gotten my car, when I lived in the Caribbean, when I moved down there, it took me a while to save up money to buy a car, for a used car. But before I got my car, I had to use a taxi to get to this one place. That's when I first arrived on the island, that first week. And a taxi man tried to assault me in his taxi. And it was an older man. Could have been in his 60s or 70s. I kid you not. It's the women are just sexual tools for some of these perverted men, and it's pathetic. So when I got my car, I was really, really relieved. It is not safe. It is not safe for single women to move to certain regions in this world, because the attitude that some men have against women, again, the objectification of the female for his trophy, for his pleasure, and not your own. And even some women are turning and acting like men. And there's a lot of women in the Caribbean who are starting to act and look like men. Again, what your preference is your business. It's not here. I'm not here to slam dunk a woman for choosing what their sexual preference, gender preference is to be with. You go to who you like, but you don't assault that other person. So whether it be women to women, don't assault another woman, and that could happen too. And that sort of happened to me there also. I met a woman in church, and this woman that I met, she was raised. She was raised in the Caribbean. She had an opportunity to go to school in the U.S. mainland, and then after her education, she went back to the Caribbean to live with her family. She gets married in the Caribbean, but she has a secret life. I did not know when I met her that she was a lesbian on the side, and she had come on to me, and when she verbalized certain things of a sexual nature to me, I left. I'm a little embarrassed about the situation, because I guess I trusted her because she was someone from church, and she was married to a guy, and they had an extra room, and we split the bill in three. I thought it was a win-win situation. We'd be able to split the bills because things are very expensive in the Caribbean, and they'll give all three of us opportunity to try to save money. So I felt safe initially, but I should have realized something was wrong, because certain behaviors I didn't understand why certain things she was acting, but now it makes a lot of sense. And I didn't know that, again, I didn't know that blacks could be gay, really. I thought it was something for other groups, not blacks or West Indian. I was a Christian at that time, and she was supposed to be a Christian also. Again, she's married. But then one day, oh, I almost forgot. She started acting like weird, and she started buying me clothes. Oh, you know, she do your hair, this and that. I realized what was going on now. She was trying to dress me as her woman. That's what I realize now. And I'm embarrassed. And so it was not about Christian love. It was about, she wanted me to be her woman, and it explains now why her jealousy of certain things, her possessiveness. I didn't understand what was going on until when she said what she said, and I said, I had to leave. And I found a place as soon as I could. It took me 3 days to find a place, and I switched churches, and then she followed me. She had followed me in her car to my new home to find out where I lived, with her husband there. And then she also followed me to my new church. Somehow she found out what church I was going to. I kid you not. So that's what I mean, that some of the women there are becoming like aggressors, like some of the men there. And that they'll hurt you too. So it's a perversion. Her behavior was perverted, and potentially exploitive and stalking. So this is not a healthy relationship. Regardless of your sexual preference of male or female, you don't stalk people. You don't, especially if you're married to somebody. You're with that partner. Don't pull me down in your mess. I'm not someone to, a family, a homebreaker. So be careful. So again, I share these things with you for awareness, because this perversion that's happening in the Caribbean is spilling over. You could be a male pervert or a female pervert, because people's minds are becoming so corrupted. And it doesn't matter that you go to church or not. I see now that the church is just a cover. It's just something you go to. But there was a lot of wicked people that went to church. There are wicked people here in the U.S. mainland that go to church, and there are a lot of wicked people in the Caribbean that go to church. It doesn't make you a good person. What makes you a good person is what you're about inside, what your intentions are. I did not know that lady's intention at all. I just thought she's a member of the church. She had a position in the church, and she knows about the mainland, and so I thought that's why we were friends, because I was born in the mainland. But sometimes people have ulterior motives, and they want to sexualize you and turn you out. And so that's another thing that's going on in the Caribbean too. This women sexualizing other women. So there's a growth also of lesbianism on the island, and I think that's why what's going on, that because it's like an initiation, and they're initiating each other to become that. And so they might have a double life. They're married to a guy, but then they try to sexualize another woman. So it doesn't make it better because it's a woman doing that. You have men who are doing the same thing. So again, this video is about awareness so that you could protect yourself. Just because someone is in the church does not make them a good person. To make awareness how people are treating their children and what the children could become as a result of mistreatment. So if your mother doesn't like you, you're not going to like yourself. And it's also growing male homosexuality, and I think that happens a lot because more of poverty driven. But again, that's just a speculation on my part. I do not know definitively, but some islands that is a growing number of men who are becoming homosexual, or at least engaging in homosexual activities, especially with the male tourists, for money. So again, when you're in poverty, when you don't have money for food, you get desperate. And so I think that's another big component in the Caribbean. But you know, men, you don't have to do that. I feel the men of the Caribbean are brilliant. You're able to learn things, and you're good with your working with your hands and fixing things. That it should be other opportunities, or to create opportunities for you. You don't need to have sex with people or the tourists for a job. And then you wonder why all these diseases, and then some of them what they call on the down low, meaning that they're with men and women. A lot of the women are getting diseases, dying of AIDS. So there's always a consequence for your behavior. And on the surface it might seem innocent to you, but everything you do affects other people. Just like the things that happened to me in the home that I was raised in, which I discussed in the beginning of this video, that bringing in pornography into your home, kids see it, and again the spirits that are attached to these that type of material is affecting the minds of the children and the adults in that home, and potential rape, incest, molestations, and then that could spill over into school, and they act out in school, and so it becomes a social problem. So so this is about the age of, let's get it together. Let's bring back true spirituality. It's not about religion. It's not about reading the rosary or a prayer book. If that helps you, fine. But it's about getting in deep within your heart and becoming a better human being that loves yourself and respects others. And that's what's lacking in the U.S., in the Caribbean, and in the world. I want it to stop. I want the child abuse to stop. I want the abuse against women to stop. I want the abuse even of men. Everybody is a potential victim, because we're falling asleep as a community, as a world community. We need to start waking up. We need to be accountable for our behavior, and come to a point to say, this may have happened to me as a child or as an adult, but now is now, and I choose not to behave that way. I choose to be a loving person. I choose to be an honest person. I choose to be and act like a human who has humanity for all. Just keep saying these things, and to, love your neighbor. Be respectful, and be careful what you bring into your home, because it's like a virus, and it'll affect everybody. And that's what's happening now in the world today. I'm really sad about that, but I hope this video gets out, and so the right people see this video and make the right choices, that you are okay, that you are not the things that has happened to you. You are who you are, a human being with a soul, and those acts of evil that may have been done to you as a child or as a teenager is just someone else's sickness being put on you. You are not the sickness that was done to you. That other person had the problem. So don't blame yourself. If you were a child at the time, don't blame yourself. I blame myself of the things that happened to me. No, it's their fault. It's those adults' faults who did those things to you. Or let's say you had a parent and you told the parent, hey, please don't leave me alone with this person. I don't like how they're touching me. I'm afraid to be alone with them. Please take me with you. And they say, oh, you're just sensitive. No. Shame on you, parent, who say things like that. Shame on you. Protect your children. Listen to what they say. When they say, I don't like being home alone with so-and-so, believe them. Believe them. Believe them. And at least take them with you when you go out. Let's start being responsible parents and individuals. If you see something, say something. When you see things, people being predated on, kids being sexualized, things like that, you know, or if things that happen in your church that you go to, there are a lot of things happening in the church. Be careful of the church you go to, and when when the kids are in a so-called playroom, always have your kid with you. If it's a Bible study, have the child with you, because they are perverts in the church. And it doesn't matter what religion or denomination, they all are the same. They all are the same. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. It is a heavy topic. This is a heavy, heavy topic, but I feel it's something that has to be said. This awareness has to be said. It's not, you know, these sexual deviants aren't just in the U.S. mainland. They're also in the Caribbean. And again, my background, my ancestors are from the Caribbean. You know, it's happening there too. And people are suffering. We have to stop traumatizing ourselves. Folks, learn to love your children. If you're not ready to be a parent, then don't have children. You know, stay single and celibate, and you won't have that problem. You know, love yourselves, do good to yourselves, love the humanity that's in you, and just thank life that you're alive. Count your blessings. Things really could be worse. So as I close this video, I thank you all for watching, and I really hope I made sense to you guys. I really hope that people understand where I'm coming from, and that I want the safety for all humanity, and I want peace in the world. I want, because things are going to get heavier and heavier, I think, on this planet, but we can turn it around. We can make life better, and it starts with you. It starts with me. So again, I thank you for watching, and may you guys live in peace and joy. I'm just pulling this thing down. Yes, peace and joy to you guys. Be safe. Love your children. Tell them that you love them, and show how you love them. And believe them, your children, when they say, please don't leave me home alone with so-and-so. Okay? Bye-bye.